So thank you everyone for attending tonight. This is real excited, and we're pretty happy to have our panelists here. I watched the video, and I think the first thing that pops out to me is the word narcissism and elitist. And I think there's been plenty of times, even in the last 2 weeks, where we've heard that in the press. And I want to ask you guys, as millennials, do you consider yourselves elitists and narcissists and all the other fun words that they pulled out in the video? I think it'd be interesting to get what your perspective is, and where are the stereotypes that are right, and what are the stereotypes that are wrong?
Can there be a range on this?
What's that? Well, we only have,
I feel
let's
like
say,
I just
5
made the
minutes.
cut of millennials, so I really am not. I feel like maybe in the middle, when you're really in the middle of the cut, you might be in the middle of all of these words.
That's fair.
I mean, being that I'm probably the youngest one in this room, I think.
Are you an asshole?
It depends on who you. It depends on who you ask. But
don't worry, you don't have to be a millennial to be in that generation. I mean, some of us have that covered very well.
But I think stereotypes exist for a reason. Partly because it could be true that millennials could be narcissistic or elitist. But there's also another side of it where there's a lot of hardworking people who are creative and driven and really just want to accomplish what they want to accomplish. And if that comes off as narcissistic or elitist, then those are keywords people use to describe people. But the side that I mostly see is the people that are just encouraged to go out there and get what they want. And sometimes stereotypes in society try to put keywords around things to make it sound more negative than it really is.
Yeah.
Got it.
I think it's so related to ambition, and for everything that's positive about it, there are some things that make it really challenging, to probably work with millennials. Mm-hmm. And what you find is that most of the time it's really worth it, because you're getting people who are entrepreneurial in spirit and who really take the bull by the horns of life, and they ask a lot of life, but they also deliver a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if it's narcissistic. I think it's empowered. This is the most empowered generation there's ever been, and millennials know it. When you talk to them, it's clear that they know that they have access to all this information, technology, and opportunity that's come from probably the most long-term, peaceful, wealth accumulating period of time that we've had in a long time. And millennials are reaping the benefits of that, and they know it. And so, I think narcissism is probably the negative aspect of that. But the other word you use is elitist, and I don't see it being elitist at all. Actually, I think this is an incredibly democratized generation. When you think about what we all do, really, it's particularly in the media side, this is what we think about a lot, is that you're really empowering people and democratizing access to information and contribution to the news where there hasn't been that before. So I think narcissism is probably the flip side. I think elitist, I would say definitely not, with some exceptions.
I think you guys have hit on some very key words there, and I agree that narcissism is probably the negative side that you can view that under. But I think empowerment, based on where technology is and networks and everything, has really created quite an environment for you guys to do a lot more than even my generation did. Right? Our generation, Generation X, was really noted by kind of grunge rock and flannel shirts. So it's a little unfortunate that's all we got, and we didn't get panels either. So it's pretty exciting. So I guess David, let's turn to you and ask about the new fronts, because I know Elite Daily participated in new fronts this year. From starting a site by yourself and beginning to sell advertising to now showing up in that environment and really trying to tell marketers about how you are reaching out and achieving engagement from millennials. How did you do that, and how was the whole New Fronts experience? Was it new? Was it every day for you guys? Just tackle it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so it was. So we recently just got acquired by Daily Mail, and probably the first month in, their chief marketing officer came up to us and were like, "Hey, we're putting you guys in the New Fronts." I'm like, all right, well, we're not ready for this. We don't really have our video product ready for it. We're like, well, too bad. We already paid for it, so you guys have to do it. So after that, it was just every day tackling, everything that we needed to get ready for the New Fronts. It was our first one, so they really did a great job of helping us how we should structure everything and what we should showcase and why we should showcase it, and really the message that we want to send to the marketers and advertisers. So I must say it was quite an experience for us to walk in and see our logo everywhere and see all these people sitting down and hearing about our product. And for us, video Video is one of our newer products right now. It's one of the things that we've been scaling and building out. Digital video, online video is obviously one of the hottest keywords probably right now as well. So for us, really, it's the biggest thing is to be great storytellers. We don't want to do anything that other people have done, and we don't want to do anything in a format that other people have done it in. We just want to tell great stories that people will actually be interested in watching, and also something that creating conversation about it. If we can own the conversation offline, by something that with a video that somebody watched online, that's really where we feel like we win, and that's our message to marketers, is that we own that conversation both online and offline.
Fantastic. So how'd it go?
Went great. I mean, the show went great, and we just did a big deal with T-Mobile where they bought a bunch of video from us, and also we did a deal with Strayer University, which we have videos coming out for them as well.
Cool. Well, congratulations. That's certainly exciting. We're going to turn to Daniel now, and we hear a lot about companies like Google and like Apple and Amazon, and they really have mass appeal, right? So they're appealing to all the generations that are out there, as well as millennials. But I think that when you look at the broader ecosystem, other than them, companies that don't traditionally, get to the millennial population are working hard to try to create brand engagement with them. So my question to you, Daniel, is what is the Huffington Post doing to really create that type of engagement with your generation?
Yeah, I mean, obviously those companies you mentioned do amazing things. So the first thing you can do is have an excellent product, and solve significant problems for people. But beyond that, we think about trends in a couple ways. The first one, from a media point of view, obviously is mobile. And I should say that a lot of the things driving our engagement with millennials are actually what's driving the entire industry. So you can see from our priorities and how closely they align with millennials, how important millennials are to our entire industry. And the first of those is really mobile. It's mobile is the first screen of digital media, 100%. And everyone who has ever talked or been in contact with a millennial knows that they have an unhealthy fixation with their mobile phone. So that is really a key thing for us. The second one is video, as David mentioned. And the thing for that is, video is growing enormously, digital video is growing enormously, and millennials are now the first generation that are watching more video off TV than on it, and that's that's a really big shift that's happening, and ad dollars will obviously follow. Then obviously social as well, which is critical. It's the #1 online activity, has been for a long time, and finally global. If you look at for us, we think about global is so important for us, and 90% of the internet audience is outside the US. 67% of the digital ad market is outside the US. So global is hugely important. And when you look at the fastest growing economies, the most interesting economies, sure enough, it correlates amazingly with the proportion of that population that's a millennial population. If you talk about India, if you talk about Brazil, it's something like around 75% of those populations are millennial populations. So the correlation between the big trends that are driving our industry and the important trends for millennials is huge for us.
Okay, so you mentioned, these key words we hear all the time. I'm going to ask you just to go a little further. I don't think anyone is surprised to hear us say mobile, video, social. Most meetings I go to, they follow it with cloud and big data. So we didn't say those two things, but
and native advertising,
right? And then native advertising, and then we all just go to sleep and call it a day, right? We've earned our money at that point. But I'd ask you to come back and tell us, if I look at just those three things, how do we expound upon that, and how do we differentiate from the normal conversation, which is yes, everyone's on their mobile phones. Yes, lots of people are engaging in video, and certainly I love the comment, I won't say that about flatulence, but lots of people are just about putting everything they could inside of their Facebook feed or wherever their social network of choice is. Yeah, how do you differentiate that conversation?
Well, I think, how you kind of differentiate yourself in that ecosystem, I think everyone is chasing that. I think you've really got to, the key is to understand, really understand what your, in our case, your audience or your customers are actually doing. And for us, when you look at those trends, they're actually hugely self-reinforcing as well. There's more obviously, there's more social on mobile. There's more video on mobile now. There's more video on social. So all of those things, there's a huge reinforcing element to that. Mm-hmm. But how we think about this, to take an example of how we differentiate ourselves. We have just undergone a redesign of our entire page, our web page. It's a huge undertaking for a media business. And we started and did exclusively, actually initially, our mobile site. And we dove right in to how people interact with that site. We didn't touch desktop, actually, until we launched our mobile site. So I think it's, to get to your question, it's more than just paying lip service to these things are important, but it's as David is diving into video, in a big way. We are diving into mobile and video as well in a big way. But it's really about following up that lip service with actual actions that make a difference to how you engage with your customers or your audience or whoever it is.
I'm going to ask one more question because we all got the Mary Meeker report last week, and if you didn't get it, or 2 weeks ago, when was that? She made a big deal to say that millennials, video's this, video's not this. I'm pretty happy about that because I've been walking around with my kids trying to video this way so it fits on the TV correctly, but now that I know I can be just as cool if I hold my phone up straight. I mean, when you guys look at video, what do you do? Do you look at video like this? Do you look at video like this, or do you not care?
The first way.
The first way, for sure, right?
Yeah, vertical video.
Vertical video?
Is the key term, yeah.
Okay. I got that. Yeah,
that's the new buzzworthy keyword.
Vertical video?
Yeah, vertical video.
Add to your list.
I can add it to my list. Yeah. I'm going to go home and hit the street. I was like, well, I was on Periscope with my vertical
Periscope
video.
Is amazing.
Right?
Oh my God. That is the coolest thing that has happened to the internet in the last year.
Really?
It's incredible.
But do you guys look at that as a monetization opportunity? Do you look at that as an outreach opportunity?
It absolutely will be. It's so powerful that right there you can stream video, talk to your customer. We just launched a partnership with Gap, and I'm on Periscope showing people who can, it's only in 7 cities, showing people this is what it looks like. Do you want us to come to Gap in your city? Showing them like, these are my favorite products right now. They're asking questions. How did you start Birchbox? What lip gloss are you wearing? What did you eat this morning for breakfast? And it's just, it's incredible.
That's
the
incredible.
Engagement is so exciting. I mean, it's in the very early days, but I never imagined that news could go that way. That it could be so driven by what the audience is asking for. Right. I don't know if you guys know what Periscope is, but it's live streaming video where the people who are watching the video can ask you questions right away. And then when you're creating the video, you get this amazing feedback when you're answering the questions that comes in the form of hearts. People are enjoying what you're saying, or they're not. You're not getting hearts. It's not interesting. It's so incredible. I'm not being interesting right now to the user. I need to up my interesting level. And then you get some hearts and positive feedback, and it's really astounding. I mean, it's so new, but I think it's a very intriguing innovation.
I mean, it's the next development to the engagement that originally it was comments on news articles, and then it was right. It's really the next evolution in a huge way.
Real time.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, listen, I think the thing we've been talking about is subscription commerce and how Birchbox has created subscription commerce, and you've really just done a fantastic job of creating a new genre of business, of getting products sent to your house by mail through a subscription service. I think it's fantastic. What's your special sauce for engaging with millennials? Is it Periscope? Are there other things? And what do you think? What do you think that traditional media could benefit from what you do?
Listen, I don't think Birchbox invented subscription commerce. Subscription commerce existed when BMG was sending people CDs in the mail and wine and all of that. But Birchbox changed.
What's a CD? I've never heard of this thing.
Right, videotapes. But Birchbox, we never looked at something and said, you know what, we would really like to create a company with subscription revenue. When we created Birchbox, what we saw was an opportunity. We saw a beauty industry, a $500 billion industry, where every other consumer industry online was hockey stick growth, and beauty was like this.
Yeah.
And we saw an opportunity because the reason that beauty was like this is that because beauty was a replenishment business online, and the entire industry is built on new product launches. And when Haley and I started the company, we said, how are we going to build a beauty e-commerce company that is not about just replenishment? It's actually about discovery, because that's what the entire industry cares about. That's where billions of marketing dollars go. That's what the consumer cares about. What's the innovation? What's the newness? And we said, how are we going to sell consumers' beauty products online, given that they have to touch it and try it and smell it first. That's why beauty was like this online.
Right.
It's because consumers wanted to engage with it in real life. And we took the problem and then we said, okay, well, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to take 200,000 products that are launched every year, and we're going to have a perspective. We're going to edit it, then we're going to personalize it, and we're going to let you subscribe to it. But the subscription is not the transaction with Birchbox. The subscription is a revenue model, but the point is to get you to purchase the product from us. So the subscription is our way into your home, into your mind, into your heart, I like to think. And then we can talk to you. Then we can start the conversation, because now the product is in your vanity, on your purse. And now when I say, hey, this is why you're going to love the moisturizer, or this is an eyeliner that actually does do something different, you're going to open that email. That subject line resonates with you in a different way, and it allows us to have a deeper conversation. But the transaction is getting you to go from the trial to the actual purchase. And now that's the fastest growing part of our business, is the full size.
Right.
So we started a new category. Yes, we've been copied a lot, but most of the copycats didn't really get the point.
Right.
It is really cool to sell people free things. It is. But it is not a very interesting business for the consumer if you don't deliver value, and it's certainly not a very interesting business to your partner if you don't deliver ROI.
Right.
So I think that we really developed Birchbox from an authentic place.
Yeah.
We saw a problem as consumers. We said, we want to be beautiful, we want to be our best selves, but we absolutely do not want to spend hours consuming all of this content, articles, videos. We want it to be easy. And I think that a lot of women resonated with the idea that it is hard. It is something where you lose your confidence walking into the doors of department stores. And they said, we're willing to have an honest conversation, and we're also not going to tell you that everything is the end-all be-all, because it's just a beauty product.
Right.
The end-all be-all should be the rest of your life. So we don't talk to our consumer that way. And it resonates with a lot of women. Every other beauty retailer out there talks to the beauty consumer like it is the end-all be-all. Like, hold the presses, a mascara has launched. Everybody stop what you're doing, run. And 80%, the vast majority of us, we are interested, but not enough to stop our conversation with our friend or to get up from the dinner table. We'll see it when we see it. And our consumer really resonates. That 80% of just beauty normal women like to talk to us about the experience of discovery that we've made a lot better.
Yeah, I would I'll comment on a couple things. I'll say first, as a 42-year-old male, I am trying to be beautiful, and I would spend hours.
You look beautiful.
I would spend hours trying to be beautiful, even if that meant putting on mascara. So, but that's a side point.
You're well groomed. I like the beard. It's very hot right now, even
Really?
in summer. Yeah, beards almost broke Birchboxman.com. Beards are very hot right now. And I'm sorry
awesome.
that the summer it's maintaining.
Well, thank you very much. We've had a wonderful panel, everyone. I think this is a fantastic thing. I think we should end on a high note. I'm glad this is being streamed live and on YouTube forever. No, but in what's that? In all seriousness, the two things that I heard you say that I think are very relevant for the media industry, you didn't use the word, but curation.
Yeah.
Right, and going and grabbing all those products and picking which ones.
Yeah, we absolutely curate,
Right.
and then we personalize.
Right, and then personalization. Now, I want to tie that also to what you said about Periscope and how cool Periscope is these days, right? Or Meerkat if you're a Meerkat fan. And ask David. You were talking about storytelling and video and how important it is to reach your audience through that online, offline. And those things, curation is part of what you do. Personalization is part of what you do. But it feels a little bit like Periscope and video would be the opposite of that. In a sense that, me and everyone having the ability to create my own story, to reach out and to share it with, the world, would be, something that you would have to contend with. How do you look at that in terms of the future of Elite Daily?
So, for us, what's interesting about us is that everybody that works at Elite Daily is within the demographic. So that's already a lot of stories that we can be pushing through Periscope and competing with personal stories. The other thing that we've done is that early on we created a contributing writer model where we have about 4,000 contributors around the world that we've chosen based off all the applications that we've gotten. We've gotten much more applications than that. And what we allow them to do is they publish to the site and they get to tell great stories from all around the world. So we've had somebody talk about how they ran how they ran in North Korea into South Korea. We've had stories from South Africa. So really, this contributing network model has allowed us to spread our storytelling beyond our office and beyond the people that work there. And when we look at Periscope, we can take those people's stories and have them tell the stories through that Periscope. So for us, we would be competing with everybody, but we would also have everybody tell their stories through Elite Daily. Because what we've done is given people a voice. We've given people columns, we've given them voices, and these are people that they go anywhere else and they'll be published on a back page and you'll never get to see it. But we actually put everything on the homepage, we push it through our social media, and because we truly believe that everybody has a story to tell beyond the writers that are in our office. So that's why with Periscope, we truly feel that we can tell great stories by using our contributor network model to streamline that.
That's fantastic. That's really cool. I think we should go to Dan.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what the Huffington Post was built on. We 100% embrace that. And actually, we launched Outspeak this week, as was mentioned earlier. And it's 100. That's exactly what it's about. We are hoping to, we're partnering with Broadband Television, who runs MCNs, and we're going to work with them to aggregate thousands of content creators on YouTube. That's the aim, which we hope will generate billions of views. And those are actual numbers, not hyperbole. And because that's very much what we're trying to do with millennials, is engage them both as an audience, but also as a content creator. There's 300, it's an astonishing figure, and I keep checking because I can't believe it's right, but there are 300 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute, which is just, it's a mind-blowing statistic, and it shows you what kind of power there is out there if you can, you mentioned competing with Periscope, and as David alluded to, we're not competing at all. We are a platform for people to tell their stories. That's how HuffPost started, and that's how we hope to sort of step change this up now with the potential with Periscope, and YouTube itself to do that. We're really excited about it.
Very cool. Why don't you, keep on going and tell us about Generation Z, right? So the next growing generation that's out there, and so what's going on back at HuffPost and the team to say, how are we going to go reach the next set of human beings that are starting to populate this earth?
Yeah.
So who are they, first of all?
Mine are Sam and Mackenzie, and they're animals, but that's a whole different story. We need more time to talk about that.
Two things about who they are. First of all, I think when I walk around the HuffPost newsroom, I think we've hired all of them in New York. I think we've pretty much got all of them. And I was speaking to one today, actually, and mentioned, that I was doing this thing about millennials, and she said, oh, no, please don't talk to me. Don't group me in with millennials. I am not a millennial.
Really? Yeah, does that bother you?
Apparently, really, that bothers them. Yeah. Generation Y now, Z is not Generation Y.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Because I think probably because of a lot of what's in that video there, and a lot about what we're talking about now. But who are they? I think it's we to be honest see them as an extension of Generation Y. It's exactly the same kind of things that we've been talking about, but in an even more concentrated form. So we have a Young Voices section, and that Young Voices section where HuffPost, we have 40% of our articles are our original content, and then the rest is filled with blogs and aggregated content and so on and so forth. That 40% accounts for 80% of our page views. So original content is a huge part of the Huffington Post. It's really what we do now. It's our core business. The Young Voices vertical, I was speaking to the editor today, and it is almost no original reporting. It's it is all blogs. It's the latest. Apparently there's a new Periscope called You Now, or a different Periscope, because Periscope was so 2 months ago. Millennials are so annoying. It's You Now, where we're doing a TV show basically from our office that's just, they're live streaming them, and whoever can tune in can ask questions a lot about what you were talking about. It's cultivating a blogger network of people talking about, and we get people wanting to blog from all over the place. So Bible Belt, we get transgender young people. In fact, it was a fascinating conversation with the Caitlyn Jenner thing that happened. All the different perspectives that we got from young people, because we accessed that, we sort of activated that blog network and got them to give their reactions almost in real time. And then it's about fishing where the fish are for Gen Y, and that's things like Vine, things like Snapchat, things that I'm not on.
They're using Vine?
Yeah, it's a bit, Vine, it's a great way to do kind of just really short, it's becoming much more conversational, It's not about being talked, that's a very cliched way to say it, but it's not about being talked at, really with these people. And that's what this young voices editor who couldn't have been more than 22 years old, was saying, you've got to understand that we don't try and push out, agendas. It's very much about inviting people in. So that's kind of that's the HuffPost approach. That's the playbook for Gen Y, as no doubt it'll be iterated on, and it's probably got a shelf life about a week before there's a new platform that comes out.
Cool. Katia, tell me more about Gen Z. So how do you feel as a millennial about this next generation and their ability to grab the spotlight and be the topic of our next panel? I mean, do you see them creating more buzz? Do you see them really doing anything more innovative than the current set?
Of course, it's an incredible time to be alive. It's an incredible time to have the privilege to be an entrepreneur. You can start a company with lower barriers than ever before. You have access to feedback immediately from your users through social media. You can engage, you can have conversations, you can build companies with your customer, not at your customer. And yes, it will continue to be, the next generation will continue to benefit from that. I assume all of our only hope for them is that it doesn't become, something that forces us to, I guess, disengage from actual reality, because that's something that is really powerful too. I mean, that actually being social is something that we're really seeing a resurgence of at Birchbox.
Really?
Yeah, social media is so powerful, but the actual live, seeing your customer in real life is nothing replaces that. And let me tell you, I'm more excited about micro data than big data right now. Big data we will continue to mine, we'll continue to build smart brains of computers to look at, but micro data, there is so much powerful knowledge in just talking directly to a consumer. I spend half an hour on the phone with our consumer every week, and it's such a powerful way to understand what's happening with our product. Just answering the phone. Customer service, and I think that is something we're going to talk about. Retro things go retro. Birchbox is a little retro. We went into the mail. Mail. It was awesome, and the inbox is getting so crowded that being retro really worked in our favor. And I think that we should be looking for those moments. I think there's going to be a demand for talk to me in real life. Come meet me. That is the most powerful part of. Having a company today is actually getting to speak to your customer, meet them, and see what they're actually doing in real life.
I have to say, if I heard you correctly, I just want to make sure, because I am concerned that you referred to as email as retro. Yeah. Right? So,
No, I refer to the mail as retro.
Okay, so regular mail.
Yeah, regular mail, because that's what Birchbox did. We send something to you in the regular mail. When your inbox was getting cluttered by flash sales,
now I understand.
We launched product into the regular mail.
Because earlier this week I heard Van Halen on the oldie station, and if you were going to call email retro, I was definitely going to shave my beard and go home. So, but no,
I told you to keep the beard. It's really what's keeping you young.
I don't know if you saw it. This is gray hair. Anyway, I want to turn to David, and I know that day in and day out as in Accenture land, I go into traditional media companies. So I go talk to ESPN and ABC and Fox, and they're traditional, but they're doing great things with digital and social, and they're really paving a way for us to grab content from my perspective. But I'd ask you, David, if you were Bob Iger, or you were Brian Roberts, what would be the first thing you would change? So you're up in the Comcast Center on the 52nd floor, looking down on the world. What would you do first?
I would hire a 24-year-old CEO that really understands the audience.
Do you got anyone in mind?
I think I know somebody.
Okay. Well, we can put that in. See what we could do.
But no, what I would do is, the biggest thing that a lot of these big companies are doing is they have a lot of great video content, and obviously they've made most of their money with video content on television. And the biggest thing is transitioning that television video content into the internet. And also making it premium content. Too many times we've seen these big networks put kind of like their secondary content on the internet, and if you want their premium content, you got to go watch it on TV because that's where they sell their commercials and that's where they make most of their money. So really transitioning the content that they have on TV into the internet, doing it in a way that the audience will respond to it and not something that's cheesy McDonald's did that whole burger stealer thing, burger robber, and it was like the cheesiest thing on planet Earth.
But cheesy burger.
Yeah, so making sure that the content resonates with the audience and giving the audience what they want to see, and also filling a void of, the good thing for these networks is that they have a lot of money that they can play with and a lot of things that they can test out. Putting that towards content creation and trying different and new things would be the smart place to put it, not just saying, hey, this show worked on TV for X amount of years, it'll work on the internet, because that's not going to be the case.
Fair enough.
I have advice.
Yes.
Just don't wait for cable to die. Disrupt yourself. For goodness sakes, everyone's begging to just choose the channels and the shows and the content that they want to watch. Just don't ride it to the ground. That's the advice. Riding anything to the ground is a mistake. Just do it yourself. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of money acquiring company or several who's going to force you to do it. I mean, your hand's being forced. Writing's on the wall. Change the user experience. Change the billing model. Change it all.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think we have time for questions. Does anyone have any questions? You don't get questions. I'm sorry.
No. There we go. And it's on. Thanks. So being millennials, speaking to millennials, employing millennials, and the question's about employing millennials and working with them or them working for you. And a lot of people who are here in the audience are employing millennials as well. They grew up in a generation where they saw their parents probably lose a job, at least one or the two of them. There was a lot of uncertainty that they went through, both with their folks and with themselves coming out of school into sort of uncertain times. How do you guys incent them and give them sort of the flexibility? Because they all want to be entrepreneurs. They've seen that. They know that the corporate back and forth that their parents had of be here for 30 years, get the gold watch, and retire doesn't exist anymore. And that, that social norm doesn't exist. And they all know that they need to be entrepreneurs of some sort. Some of them are, like yourselves, actual entrepreneurs, but some of them want to be intrapreneurs. They want to work inside of companies, but still kind of get that flexibility. Mm-hmm. How do you provide that outlet for them to do both what they're passionate about, but also allow them sort of to have actually a career to grow from?
Yeah.
So we employ now, I think it's over 85 people now since our acquisition, and all of them fall in the range of millennials, Generation Y. One of the things when we started, we started it out with not much money, and we were just a bunch of kids right out of college trying to figure it out. Our main ideology was, we're going to do this because we want to do this, and we want to go out there and change the way people are doing things and change the way they're seeing it. And we're really passionate about the product, about the brand, and about everything that we're doing. And that's going to be our DNA, and it's going to seep through the product. So it's kind of created it's not what you do, it's why you do it mentality in our office. And the people that work for us, they really love the company. I mean, they'll put the company before anything else that they have going on in their lives, and it bleeds through them, and it's something that's kind of happened naturally without us kind of forcing it, and it's happened from our core group when we started and just kind of seeped into everybody else because those people are still there now. And one of the things that I've done with managing them is anytime they have an idea, anytime they want to try something, we let them go do it. You got to let them kind of go and try things that they want to try, and if they fail, you help them. And there's ways to shape things. But anytime they pitch something to us, or anytime they have an idea or want to try something different, we're very open to saying, hey, go ahead and do it. Like, what resources do you need? Who else do you need to help? What other help do you need in here? And they'll go and run with it, and we'll help them whenever they need to. But that really kind of creates the culture of, hey, you can do anything you want to do in here, and we'll all work together to do that together.
Yeah, I think that there is a new contract with employer and employee that it's kind of awesome for all of us, both sides, because the contract is, this is going to be the hardest job you've ever had. It's going to be incredibly challenging. We're going to push you, mostly because you're not going to be micromanaged. You're going to have an insane amount of responsibility. And like the workday never stops because you have your device always with you. But the contract on the other side is, you deserve to have an awesome job because work life does not exist anymore. It is just life. Work life is about doing something that actually, It speaks to you, it motivates you, it builds you, it challenges you. Your brain is growing as a result of it. You're growing as a person. You're around people that you want to be around. So you get to demand of your job. It's a right. It's your right. And everybody who starts at Birchbox, we have a little over 300 people, I tell them that's the contract. No matter where you came from, you may have come from investment banking, 105-hour work week, whatever it was, this is going to be the hardest job because we expect more of you. Even if you think you're amazing, and we think you're amazing, we still expect you to surprise and delight us. But in return, you get to have an incredible opportunity. You get to demand things of your job. And as long as you're delivering on your side of the contract, we deliver on ours.
Yeah, and I think to add to those great answers, actually, I think the one thing that we think about a lot at HuffPost is an iterative mindset, and so I think in that way, having millennials, so many millennials, helps the company do that because if you work with young people, what they want to do is they get it up, they want to get something working straight away, and then just iterate on that. And if it fails, there's not a lot of it guards against that whole corporate tendency towards kind of risk aversion and sort of making sure everything's that no one is on the hook for anything. Whereas millennials don't really think like that. They just want to get something built, see what it looks like. If it doesn't work, we'll work out why not and sort of fix it. So embracing that, I think, is another kind of win-win.
And you have to be careful. You can squash that too. You really can. You can squash it. And I think one time we've been having this conversation as a company that is if you're bored, so is the customer. Absolutely just accept that. If you are not delighted by your work right now, you are boring the customer. Figure it out. Go get unbored. You're going to create awesomeness.
Another question?
All three of you are in somewhat crowded arenas just because, as you mentioned, there's so lower barriers to entry. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of things that are in some way like what you're already doing. Could you each talk about the single most important decision you made that was made to be distinctive, to stand out, to cut through the noise?
I'll start because I didn't actually make this decision, but it's important. It's a really important one for HuffPost. And the single most important thing for us was our global expansion. We're in 13 markets now. It's a huge point of differentiation. We cover 75% of the world's GDP now with offices, in 13 markets. And that really is the one that has lifted us out of what incredibly, there's a statistic that 80% of US content websites were founded after 2005 that exist now. So that global expansion and the way we did that really quickly was hugely important to differentiate us from a really crowded field and a field that's really good at what it does.
Who else? We should go to another question.
I think for us, and it kind of happened by accident, it was that we hired people right out of college that didn't really have much writing experience or really know the media landscape, and kind of worked in our favor because these people were more so having a conversation with the audience rather than speaking at the audience, just because they weren't constrained by any lines or we can't do this or we could do this. They just created content that people would find appealing and read and connect with and enjoy and talk about. So one of the good decision that we made was giving people a chance where if they applied anywhere else in the media, I don't think they would have gotten hired.
I'm curious how you define yourselves to the market, to your advertisers, and also how you define yourselves as companies to your customers, your immediate audience reading your content, consuming your products. Is that the same? Is that different? Did you have to adjust how you sort of presented yourself to those different audiences? Because you're a millennial company, because you're representing this audience that isn't necessarily easy to understand?
We don't have advertisers, so. We don't have advertisers.
Yeah, so it's important to tell the same story. Being in the media, you don't have one client, you have two clients. You have the advertisers and you have the readers, and you have to appease both of them. You have to make sure they're both always happy at the same time. Probably one of the hardest things to do. So transparency across both of them and authenticity across both of them is super important. The reason why we've been able to build a brand and become really a big player in this industry is because people loved our product. And when there's an organic love for product, advertisers are going to follow. So when the advertisers did come, we told them the same story that we told our readers, just because managing two different stories and telling them one thing and giving our readers another thing will drive us all crazy. So it's got to be the same, and it's got to go across both.
Yeah, I mean, it's at our core is engagement, and fortunately, that's what advertisers are looking for also. So that's really the messaging for HuffPost. The other thing about that is that we fortunately, as a media company, you have a really distinct advantage in that you spend all day understanding that audience. So we talk to that audience every day. We understand them better than anyone else. We can create content, and now with content becoming advertising a lot of the time, that's a really important thing. So those engagement and the ability to sort of actually directly speak to an audience are our two key things.
First, David, when's your birthday?
My birthday?
Yeah.
September 21st, 1990.
Okay, you are wait, you're older than me, so you may not be the youngest person here. Otherwise, was there any one moment in David, Katia, this is mainly based towards you guys, that you just knew that your companies were going to succeed starting it off? Because, I don't know, I mean, starting a company seems really hard. There's a lot of failures that you don't hear about. You just kind of hear about the success stories like you guys.
I mean, right at the very beginning of the idea, I'd say that's the kind of stupidity that you need to go through it, is to believe that anybody that told, and so many people told us that it was a really bad idea, that consumers would never pay for sampling. We heard no from far more investors than we heard yes. And every time it happened, I was laughing on the way out, wow, you really missed it. I mean, that's you have to be really naive and really stupid and kind of blind, I think, to go through it, because it's extremely challenging. It's painful in ways that are impossible to describe, and it becomes so intertwined with who you are that if you knew how hard it was going to be and if you faced that, you would never do it. So you have to just believe, I think right from the earliest days, that it has a bit of inevitability. And then you really work hard to earn that inevitability. But it was from the moment that it all coalesced when we realized it, for me.
Yeah, so just to build off that, you essentially have to be crazy to go through starting a company, and to build off what you were just saying, bold blindness of going into something and not really understanding what you're going into. That's one of the things that allowed us to do what we needed to do. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. We had no idea how hard it was, who was standing in our way, even who our competitors were. We were just like, hey, we're completely blind to the industry. We know nothing about it, and we're just going to do what we want to do, and that's why it works for us. So that's why I think, as an entrepreneur, you have to have bold blindness. And the distinctive moment where we knew this was going to be something, I think it had to be the first time, I think, somebody approached me. I think I was wearing a T-shirt that had the company name on it, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's my favorite site." And for us, we sit in a room all day with four walls, and we didn't really think outside of, we see analytics and we see a number on a screen, but you don't actually think that, hey, those are actual people you're connecting with. So the first time somebody came up to us and was like, "Hey, I love this. This is I read this all day long."
Yeah.
We're like, all right, we're probably onto something. I mean, we don't know it, but probably onto something.
So as millennials age, what characteristics of this cohort do you think will persist versus adapting similar to past generations?
He said cohort.
They called you a cohort. And
I'm in the millennial cohort too.
He said, when are you going to look more like the guy at the end? Is what I think. Was what I heard. I said, at least act like the guy at the end. That's what I heard. It's cool. Don't worry. I won't take it personally.
So I think we're gonna create our own rules and live by our own rules. I don't feel like wearing a dress shirt. None of the greats wear a dress shirt. So
Hold on. Who do we define as greats? I want to hear this.
Mark Zuckerberg, Evan from Snapchat. I mean, me and Steve are just talking about it right now. None of the greats wear a T-shirt. A dress shirt. Why should we wear a dress shirt?
I mean, shit. Looks like I gotta need to get a new wardrobe.
So I think we're gonna make our own rules, and I think we're gonna stick to our own rules, and we're gonna do what we feel most comfortable with, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And, there's gonna be a group of people younger than us that are gonna blow our minds too. we have two 16-year-olds working in our office now, and I mean, I don't understand them, and I'm 24. So, so it's just going to keep happening. It's why fight it?
Okay. I think we have time for one, maybe two questions. So, right there. Do you have a mic? Okay.
So my question is about media business models, so it's more for David and for Dan. So millennials love ad blockers, and I think the stat is like 30% of them use ad blockers. Those ad blockers also detect native advertising, so content and all of that stuff. So they seem to love the brand. At the same time, they don't seem comfortable with the idea of funding, the journalism and the content. And the only other business model that kind of works for media is to have people pay for it, but they either don't have the money or they don't want to pay for it because, hey, it's always been free. So how do you think about that?
So I mean, ad blockers it's a big deal. Taking the subscription side first. Subscription is something that we've sort of toyed with in very, very minor ways, but never. It's a very blunt instrument for our business to sort of try and paywall a site like HuffPost. Just it doesn't make sense. There might be an avenue for a premium product, but really for the foreseeable future, subscription's not really an option. So ad blockers then are a big deal, and there are a couple. There are tactical ways to sort of fight against ad blockers. There are ways, there's evidence to suggest if you just reach, a lot of people have ad blockers installed and don't even realize what they do. So you can actually reach out to a lot of people that have ad blockers and just say, look, this is why we're doing it. A little bit how Wikipedia kind of asks for donations in a kind of in a non-offensive way. So those kind of things are two key things, but it's an issue that we're sort of grappling with and trying to keep pace or just ahead of the pace of the ad blocking industry.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with the worst demographic ever. I mean, they won't even pay for Netflix. They got 10 people on one Netflix account. That does not show much promise. So I don't know what the correct answer is, but. It's obviously just something that everybody in the media world is trying to figure out. We're trying to figure out. Huffington Post trying to figure out. Hopefully somebody does, but otherwise I do not know what happens.
Do we have time for one more? One more question? Anyone?
What do you think you have learned from legacy media or previous generations, just to bring this full circle? I mean, I know you can't stand it alone. They're partnerships and collaborations.
I mean, I didn't answer that. The advice that I would give is come talk to us. We'd love. There's a huge amount of opportunity for partnerships with. To your point, don't. There's no need to run it into the ground. And TV is not doing so bad. Everyone on all the content. Ariana actually for the White House Correspondents' Dinner, instead of taking kind of big media people, took only social creators. So I had a number of sort of YouTube stars and Instagram personalities, that kind of thing. And the big news, and to your point about going retro, the big news on the day was one of these Instagram stars who had 10 million followers, something crazy like that. The big news was that they just signed a book deal. This is the traditional media still has a really important role to play. Just as we always say that traditional media online, we love the New York Times. We think New York Times is an amazing product. We benefit from the work that New York Times does, both from breaking stories to us being able to link to all of that kind of stuff. So we learn from we don't see them as the enemy at all. So we learn from that I think every day. In really everything do. I mean, it's based off what they have done. And even we were in the New Fronts as well, and we run TV. We're talking about linear programming online. Now we have a very different approach to distribution, and they could learn a lot from basically going where audiences are and creating content in ways that audiences want to consume content. Like Netflix has done so well. So there's a huge amount of synergy there, and if anyone's in the audience, come talk to us. There's a lot of great stuff we could do.
One last question. Would you guys classify this right here as traditional media?
What's this?
I can't see everyone's name tag.
No, right over here. Would you classify this as traditional media? A panel to a live audience?
Are we periscoping it?
We are now periscoping.
We spoke about
exactly,
Periscope, so I don't think it's
about
traditional.
Right now we have HTTP servers that are streaming it live over the internet directly to someone's Microsoft browser on their PC. So that's as close as we're getting.
I was gonna answer your question about we have a ton to learn from each other. I think it is really a conversation, and if anything, we're all saying that it's not really about like one or the other. It's really about the evolution and the convergence of it all. And you're seeing companies like our company, like Birchbox, where we said we're online, we're fixing online, and now we opened a store, we're talking about offline. It's so clear that it's about being where the consumer is, that we have so much to learn by having the dialogue, and the faster we come and have that conversation, the better we're going to make the experience. We can't, if we say it's not binary, if we admit it's not binary, and instead we decide like, this isn't really about there being, just one pie and how are you slicing it up. It's about growing the pie and how can we do that together and having that conversation. And it's so important that we get there quickly and start being frenemies, right?
Cool. So I think we're good. I want to thank everyone again. I definitely want to thank our panelists.